on you. I'm trying to share the truth with you, but you just don't hear me. Oh, I'm trying to reach out to you. Only feeling like a fool when you treat me so damn cruel. I know you don't understand me, or this passion that has enraged me, or a quest for destiny.
Well, howdy, folks. Welcome to the Injured Worker Show. Today, the topic is going to be Democrats try to silence work comp whistleblowers. So what I'm going to do is just jump right into it because I've already shared a video on this once before, and I'm just going to go right into it. They don't hear me because for 5 years now, my own liberal left has been trying to silence me. I've spoken out for workers' human rights, for our federal human rights. So here's how it's pretty much started 5 years ago. I started a previous video about this gentleman, and I'm going to try and see if I can transfer over and share the desktop here. I think that'll work, and I'll just keep talking and we'll see if that works or not. I'll bring up this gentleman here. This gentleman is Gary Downing. He was somebody that was running for state representative and was one of union members for my union because I work for school district. I work for the University of Washington Medical Center. Anyways, he befriended me and I befriended him because he was running for office, and I was trying to get a hold of anybody that would try to get our voices heard for the injured workers and our issue on the table for another national work comp commission, which we've needed since 1972. So it was really frustrating to me that I befriended him, and I shared this story already, and he said, well, he wanted me to write him a letter to the letter of the editor, and I did that, and I was nice and did that, but when I wanted him to help tell people about the federal oversight, he clammed up and closed me out. About the same time Senator Marilyn Case did too as well, when Senator Sanders and Patty Murray gave me a love letter saying we need these minimum federal standards for the injured workers of America, but they too went silent for 5 years. Now during that whole time, and now I'm going to try and switch over and share with you on my, I believe it will be my Facebook page I've got going here. So I can bring it up here. And we'll go here. Looks like we're live on that one. And so basically what I want to share about is how I also reached, around that same time, I was reaching out to some our revolution people to try and help as well, and whole Washington people. And these were the people I had gone up against this whole time because they seemed to be wanting to push the single-payer initiative more than they wanted to help me. Jason called me unhinged, who was one of their candidates running for office. Yeah, and said his priorities were meds for all and whole Washington, not your injured workers. Then, of course, all this time when I was trying to get them to help, we had people like this here, as I was talking to the whole Washington, our revolution gang, trying to get them to put the issues Sanders told us our workers needed on the table. They all were telling me no. I even were putting videos together for them saying the answer to my question, showing where they said they can't get honest about it. And I was trying to get them to get honest about it on one page. And this lady, Georgia Davenport, who's an RN, I believe, is also a whole Washington director. And she steps up and tells people that you should block Darren. He has physically threatened volunteers and candidates in Washington State, which was not true. I had some issues with some judges and some SSDI judges and maybe some doctors, but no candidates. I never did that, so for sure to say that was a lie. And it was basically not wanting people to hear the truth that I was telling up in the videos, that they weren't putting our issue on the table yet. They were putting this other issue, and they were telling people, and then they go down, this other guy, Ryan Asher steps up and says, oh, I was about to type up a long response to this absurd ideal that single payer hurts those with disability. Good to know. He's just a troll. No, I wasn't just trolling. I was telling the truth, and I was sharing with them what I showed right here, down here, that the American Law Journal had told us that it would harm injured workers because we don't get our time loss and our vocational services, and it was a losing deal for the injured workers. And as we find out from some work comp lawyers, that employers love it because they're going to save 60% on their work comp rate. So frustrating when I, as an injured worker, was trying to get help and be heard, and everybody on my liberal left seemed to be trying to silence me as I was trying to sting out. And it gets a little bit more deeper than this. Let me see if I can go back here. As I was reaching out to them, I had also spoken to like Courtney Love and Tyler Vega, the Our Revolution movement, and they were telling Brian, as I was seeking out help and telling them to put Senator Sanders, what he wanted us, Senator Sanders told us our injured workers needed on the table with all our other issues. He told me, Brian Cheeseman says, "You're full of shit, dude. You want to lick Sanders' balls, too, if he told you to. You're not helping anything and seriously pissing me off. You're harassing me and members of my organization. You think you are special. Live with hemophilia, motherfucker," he tells me. "Then tell me how hard your life is. Fuck off, pathetic asshole." Really? I, of course, answered him back. But anyways, that's the kind of stuff I've had to deal with as I've reached out for help to put the minimum federal standards on the table and human rights, basic human rights on the table for our workers across this nation that Senator Sanders told us we all need. And we've needed since 1972. So it's frustrating that as a healthcare provider, as I worked at the healthcare bedside as a certified nursing assistant at the University of Washington and healthcare for 15 years at hospitals and in home care. So it's frustrating to me as I was reaching out to say also as a patient and a victim who had been harmed, the people who were harming me in my health care and trying to rob my benefit and work comp benefits from me by using my health care to do so. It was really frustrating that as I'm trying to basically crossing the white line to get the truth told, is nobody wanted that truth told. And I was trying to tell how I'm complaining to med boards and we can't get our truth told and we can't blow the whistle. And so it's really frustrating for workers as we go through the process and nobody will help us and many can't get lawyers. So anyways, I just wanted to show that, and I also wanted to share at the same time I was sharing with them, this is what the state, this is what the American Bar Association was saying at the same time that these guys were pushing this in Colorado and here in Washington State, and it was that the state payer proposal in Colorado, Amendment 69, would create a single payer system that would have replaced the medical part of the state work comp with a new state payroll tax funded with health insurance program. See, here in Washington State, we've never had a state payroll tax, so that's a hard sell, and you'll probably never get it. Not even if you have a long game as to 2026, it's still not going to fly here because Washingtonians love not having the income tax. Anyways, terms of the program would have incorporated ACA minimum coverage in the state plan. Would have left wage replacement, part of the state work comp, disconnecting injured workers from rehabilitation and return to work. Defeated overwhelmingly. Anyway, that's what the American Bar, that's what the lawyers were telling us about it. But when you learn from the work comp lawyers out of Colorado, David DiPaolo told us, he talked to some small biz people who told us that they were pushing it because they wanted to get the 69% cut on the work comp rate, and that the injured workers wouldn't know what this would do to them. They're naive to what this would mean for their grand bargain. So anyways, I will keep going on a little bit further, because it gets a little bit more frustrating, because around that same time I was also trying to seek some help from a lady named Patty Daly, and she was supposed to be she was like the in charge of the Democratic Progressive Caucus on Facebook, Disability Caucus, and she had some issues where she had a vasectomy or whatever, I can't remember what it was, something was cancer, and she had an operation, and she come and said, it was all bragging because she went through work and made it to the operation and worked all the way through her disability. That's awesome. Well, at first, because she was a union member and all that, and my same union, or the state employees union, I thought, well, maybe she was like a receptionist or maybe a janitor or something. And I thought, well, you know, kudos, that's all great, but it ends up she's a judge. And so I'm sorry for her to use her ability to get through her disability as she's a judge and to compare to somebody who's a nurse who has a 50-pound limit and runs on the floors. That's not a comparison. Or to a man who labors all day. There's no comparison to that, Patty Daly. And so it's frustrating to me that this woman, back then, as I was seeking help from the Democratic Disability Caucus to get my injured workers on the table issue, she was closing me out back then. Now, here it is, you know, 5 years later, and I have proof that since these people have tried to silence me, we injured workers have lost 15% on our grand bargain nationally. That's a 15% loss for anybody who works from your grand bargain. That's harming labor. That's a takeaway, and it's been a trend over the last 10 years as I've been screaming out to these people, please speak up and help us with our human rights issue here. All need to be continually silenced by folks like this, and it's frustrating to find out that she turns out to be a judge. But like I say, even now, today, he's still trying to close me out. And it's kind of frustrating because, yeah, she actually went on, I was sharing stuff on some Facebook pages, all my information on these different groups, and she went to one of the different labor groups that I was in and told them, and made a special, what do you call it, a special post just for me telling people not to listen to Darren. Just like I had another lady in this other group that I have that's called Workers' Compensation Stories, come on and make a special post just for me asking people, could you please close him out? And then she goes on to say, well, I didn't mean to try to silence you. Well, if you're asking people to close him out, then you're trying to silence me. And that's not good. We don't help each other by trying to silence each other, or by Patty Daly coming on and telling people to take his stuff down. He's got up a whole bunch of rants. No, ma'am. If you listen and take time to hear me, you would find out that I'm speaking very clearly, very concisely, and I'm not ranting and raving. Yes, I was a few years back, and the reason I was doing that was because people like you, ma'am, were trying to silence me as you're claiming to be my union rep and a disability rep and one of my state Democrats who should be helping me amplify the injured worker's voice instead of trying to silence. Then I move on, and I won't even get into where, you know, I made a picture of all this stuff. But anyways, how I tried to get help also from my mental health people along this same time. And this is where it leads into where my mental health, I almost feel now, looking back on everything, may have been trying to contain me and silence me, even though my therapist said, history room wrong, get your voice heard. These people are, my mental health people at CMAR are tied in with Whole Washington, and they're advocating for Whole Washington and Medicare for All, which I'm for both those things, but not if you're going to use your Whole Washington to push my injured workers issue off the table, or both issues, and that's not appropriate. As you say, you're advocating for patients' mental health, and especially when CMAR, my mental health, behavioral health people that have been in charge of my mental health for like 6 years or more now, and they criminally court ordered for 6 years of that, have told me that part of the reason they call me, deem me delusional, was because of me trying to scream out at my lawmakers and get the truth heard from my lawmakers. And yes, I say a few profanities and stuff, but basically that the way I was trying to get the issues heard was not appropriate, and that I was delusional for doing to try to get my lawmakers to hear me that way. Yeah, it turns out they have a legislative liaison named Claudia Alegre, who at the same time as I was trying to get my lawmakers around here, like Lillian Ortiz-Self, my state rep, and Mike Sells and all them, and Rick Larson to all help me, all of my Democrats, they were having a Latino Legislative Day in 2019, and I told them before they even did the day to please tell the truth about how my father-in-law, who was an injured worker and an immigrant, was worked to death after his on-the-job injury at Walmart, plus my issues and my father's issues. And they know my mental health issues. They've admitted it to state work comp judge, to a federal judge, to criminal judges, but when I want them to tell the truth on Latino Legislative Day, they didn't want to do it. I tried to report this to North Sound Ombuds people, and they tell me they're not doing anything inappropriate. I feel they do. It is inappropriate because it harms my mental health when you have that day, and their legislative liaison there is there to talk to us how to communicate with talking with your legislator training. with Claudia Legre from CMAR. And then she also was there to talk about mental health and the importance of mental health. They're also going to that day have some work comptroller come and tell immigrants that you don't have to fear reporting your on-the-job injuries here in Washington State. So in other words, they're spinning the narrative against the minimum federal standards that the injured workers need to say that everything's fine, and they're just using the immigrants as fronts and props to push the state's narrative that everything's fine without getting honest and truthful about the need of minimum federal standards that we need for all workers across this nation. Even if Washington State is treating its workers fine, that's great, then you should have no fear of wanting the minimum federal standards that other states have the same equality that we have here in Washington. But anyways, it's frustrating for me as a mental health patient as I was reaching out to these people and they're telling me, sing kumbaya on the internet, that's part of your therapy is to get heard, and I agree with music therapy as far as a calming mechanism to keep the rage at bay, and it does help us out a lot. And I'm trying to, but when I'm trying to get my voice heard, everybody and their brother can sing on the porch these days, and it's not a way. It's not getting my voice heard, and especially when they have an avenue to report the abuse that was done to me that they reported to the other judges, but yet they can't report it to these people, to the lawmakers when they do Latino Legislative Day or on these other meetings that they're having with them as they're advocating for whole Washington. I want to know why they continue to not advocate for me, but tell me I have to learn to advocate for myself and sing for myself. The same thing the North Ombudswoman, mental health woman, told me, Darren, I want to teach you how to advocate for yourself. Well, why can't Claudia Legre advocate for injured workers and having their mental health destroyed by state work comp systems that are felonies that the federal government said was felonies, Patty Murray said was felonies, Senator Sanders said was felonies, Tom Perez said was felonies? It's not appropriate. And I'm going to leave it at that. So it's been frustrating that I have people basically trying to silence me as I've reached out to get help for the injured workers of America. For basic human rights, we're told we're needed by Sanders himself even, but then also in 2020 we had another report come out that said we needed a bilateral commission, which was Congressional Research Service, U.S. Congressional Research Service in 2020 also told us our injured workers need these minimum federal standards for our human rights. And so just to have some basic human rights where an arm in one state is $35,000 and an arm in another state is $750,000. That's an inequality, and we can't build back America and make it better or greater again, or either way, you know. But yet Trump didn't say nothing, Sanders didn't say nothing, and Biden didn't say nothing, as all of them ran for president, and I was begging them to speak out about this. They asked me, they won't speak out about it, asked me, made their report, and it says nothing about wanting to put the minimum federal standards on the table or crying out for the needed National Workers' Comp Commission. So it's egregious to me, and it's no wonder my mental health is borderline schizo sometimes, because I have people from my own party, the liberal side. I can understand if I was fighting the Alec Biz right, and I've had to fight them as well, but to have to fight my own liberal left is egregious and oppressive. And for my health care to apparently at this, after all this time, not to be stepping up and helping me as well to get my voice heard in a community that says, you know, use song and dance instead of using, you know, rage and anger. And I'm trying to do that, and my therapist has done a great job at CMAR. And let me transfer back over here. See if I can get back to the thing there. There we go. Yeah, and so my therapist is doing a really great job, and kudos to her for that to a certain degree, but you can only go so far. You can't tell me, oh, gee, you're probably not going to get your voice heard in your lifetime. You might die before your issue ever gets on the table. But yet on the other, and tell me, oh, sing kumbaya, try to make your lawmakers hear you, try to get the people, your voice really needs to be heard, Darren. But on the other hand, you're not asking management to push this agenda or this issue, which is harming your patient. You know it's harming me. You know it's harming other patients. You know it's even harming some of CMAR's own workers. Yet management can't seem to get honest about this. And when I find they're tied in with whole Washington and our revolution and Jason called for Congress, and then you go, also Sawant is also involved, this Kashmir Sawant, has also dissed me for 5 years with silence, as she's supposed to be helping workers because she wants to go with this one set of doctors instead of this other set of doctors. I'm saying, why can't we go with most set of doctors, what they have to say for what workers? And definitely, why can't we go with what the doctors are saying the injured workers have needed? The injured workers advocates have said we needed since 1972. I'm calling foul on my own party, and I need some help here to have the truth told so that we can fight for human rights and go fight the other side that, once they're woken up, would probably say, yeah, we would like our human rights honored too, because we would like equality and not have to compete to our arms and legs be less or more so that we can compete for jobs to come to our state. So that Alabama don't has a $35,000 arm, and another state, Georgia, maybe $750,000. Also, if you die of COVID, if you lose life, a life should be the same if you die on the job, no matter which state we're in. State lines should not dictate our human rights. Alec Bisman's state right, Mort Compre, should not supersede our workers' human federal right. It's just a basic human rights, and if America can't get on board with some human rights, as it cries and about all these other nations not honoring human rights, when injured workers have cried for these human rights since 1972, then I'm crying foul on both the left and the right at this time. My unions are failing me, my liberals are failing me, and our Republican conservatives and Mr. Trump failing. We need honesty, and we need to stop purging the aging injured workers to the street, and that's exactly what's happening here. We're being cheated and fleeced and then harmed, and by doctors who are protected by state immunity, and nobody goes after them when we prove in our appeals that they were lying to deny and harm and hurt us. They get away with it, and then we're cost-shifted off to the federal rolls where we're put to the same gauntlet and rigmarole, sometimes for 8 years, like in my case. Other people are going 12 years before, and then they're going, oh, well, you should have been turned on 12 years ago. No, that's not appropriate. We're working hard. We're working 20, 30, 40 years. We're getting hurt. We're going to get our bandage. They're denying the bandage. They're denying the vocational services and cost-shifting you off over to these other lines and basically purging the aging injured workers to the street. And basically what we got going on here is ageism, and especially when I cry out to the millennials and my own liberal left. I'm all for Medicare for all. I'm all for universal health care. I took care of patients for 15 years. Your mommies and your daddies and wiping your asses, and I also took care of the mental health patients that hurt my back with combative patients. I also hurt my back lifting patients. There's a couple times. But anyway, that was a nurse, and we got presumptions. See, Washington State has made some great strides in the last 5 years. They have tried to put some presumptions in place for firefighters, cops, and even nurses. But we're finding those presumptions aren't all that great if you're still having to go through the lie to deny and water down process of our injuries instead of giving our band-aids, because our health care is used as a tool to cost contain instead of heal. Anyways, I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm tired of being silenced. You're not hearing me, and that's why I had to sing, and this is my song. And I don't know what's more a human being can do in his community to be heard. Is he doing what he was told needs to be done by the left and the right, the U.S. Congressional Research Service? I don't know what more I can do one human being. I beg my liberal left, please stop trying to silence my issue and put it on the table, and get our National Workers' Compensation Commission Senator Patty Murray and Sanders and all the rest of you. Definitely, Patty Murray, could you please put my resolution on the table for me? Because Jason Call and my other PCO, I got a new PCO, I forget what her name is, but she don't want to put it on the table. Because everybody in town, even Mike Sells, the whole gang, don't want our issue, human rights issue on the table, and that's agreed. It's a worker. And then when I have this judge, who was also, a judge here in the law, and trying to silence me, that's not appropriate, ma'am. In America, we don't silence people. And if you were a judge and you were silencing people and not letting both of the sides of the story be told, would you think that would be appropriate? No, ma'am, it's not. And if you're going to be one of my union reps, you're going to stand up for labor, and you're going to stand up for workers, and all you did was sit on your ass, and kudos to what you did probably, but you were a judge, ma'am. And if you're going to be in my union, and that's part of another problem I got going here, I got sons and daughters of people, some men that were Teamsters who used to drive truck, and they got in, and they ran for office. Now their sons and daughters are in office who never did a day of labor, but college degrees on the wall, and are making the decisions for us. But yet when a man who has a GED on the wall and was hurt and harmed and was trying to be heard and was a patient health care provider for 15 years, a certified nursing assistant who had no blemishes on his record, he was taking care of males and females, that is commendable and should be honored and respected. And what I have to say in this medical community should have been considered and not shushed away. Don't shush. CNA, we are a part of the team. The nurses know that. Some of them have forgot that this nurse was standing up for your back. That some of us weren't being taken care of. And now, since I did stand up, you got some presumptions here in Washington State and some other states, but there's other states where they don't have those presumptions. They're still being hurt and harmed. And we need to help them just as much as we help those nurses here in Washington. And to say we're just going to help here and not help those, that's not equality. That's just not fair, equal, and that's not what our unions are there for. They need to help all workers across this nation, not just say, well, I'm going to help this state and that state and states' rights. No, Mary Kay, and let's stride towards, what do you call them? I'm kind of drifting away here, but these there's something going on with these committees, instead of unions, the anti-rank and file committees. There's where I'm going. Instead of having unions, let's have rank and file committees. No, and even Mary Kay from the SEI union, she's even buying into this stuff. And so it's like my unions are almost selling out, and it's getting a little frustrating. Anyways, I wish they would at least listen to me. And even if I am delusional on some issues, I agree with that. Why wouldn't I? You fried my brain for 5 years, telling me to sing, tell your truth, dig the truth, tell the truth, expose the truth. As other agents that are affiliated with the admin of my behavioral health system are saying to shush him, shush him, shush him. I'm a man who refuses to be silent. And the FBI agent who came to my house was sent from SSDI Bill, who's basically trying to harm me again after I was supposed to have a settlement 3 years ago, which is a whole other issue. I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, people are being hurt and harmed. First of the streets, told you're being to go rest and relax, and you can't rest and relax when they're still going after you legally. And part of the reason you're delusional, they say, is because you've been litigated too much, yet they continue to litigate it. And it's frustrating. And so I'm sharing my frustration the best way I can, and I'm not doing like a lot of maniacs out there, as Patty Daly would have you paint me, as Jason Call would have you paint me as unhinged. Yes, I did make some mistakes at yelling and screaming at judges like one of my work comp judges, who me and him are okay now. We made amends with each other. But yet I have my own liberal left and our revolution folks trying to hurt me, and that's not appropriate when I spent 15 years trying to help this community and save lives. And I'm still trying to do that, and I've been trying to do that, and you only do that by speaking truth. Don't do it by trying to silence those who are trying to speak truth. Even if you think they're delusional, then scroll over us, block us, but don't tell everybody not to hear us. Thank you, and have a good day, and stay safe out there. You here, please. One more. This isn't 1 minute. This isn't 1 minute. 1 in 4 of us would be hurt and harmed in our life. 1 in 4 of us would be with this in our lifetime. 1 in 4 of us. This will hit. This ain't one man's issue. This is about 25% of us issue, and we need to step up and represent it. Thank you, and have a good day.